Yeah, let's just get right to it. I hope the music's not too loud. All right, so the first story, I found this one to be funny. The new iPhone software update already catching apps like Facebook being shady. This is the iOS 13 beta, which dropped in some people's hands early. And what they found is that when they ran this app, or I'm sorry, when they installed the update, that they were getting pop-ups that Facebook was trying to use Bluetooth. And it's come out that Facebook uses Bluetooth coupled with Wi-Fi and GPS to triangulate your location and find other smartphones. So this beta found out that Facebook was trying to use Bluetooth without telling you. Facebook tried to get ahead of the announcement. They put out a blog post explaining what their app does and why it does it. And they said that they said they published a blog post explaining its location gathering practices and noting that users can turn off location services to prevent the app from using Bluetooth and GPS to track them. But, however, even with location services switched off, this is the point I've been making for years, Facebook could still track a user's location using things like check-ins, events, and information about your internet connection. And this latest thing about Bluetooth is kind of troubling because I had no idea that apps even use Bluetooth. Like social media apps. I didn't think they did. I thought the only thing that used Bluetooth were like wireless sharing services or headphones, and maybe a camera app that connect to a Bluetooth mic or something like that, or something that uses a Bluetooth mic probably want to use Bluetooth. I had no idea Facebook want to gather information about my location using Bluetooth. So all the more reason to want to upgrade to iOS 13 if you haven't already, because Mr. Tim Cook called people like Facebook and Google the data industrial complex. I like to call them the shadow brokers. You guys that play Mass Effect, you know what I'm talking about. The shadow brokers. These guys are all about brokering your data, your secrets. Secret, I've got a secret. All right, the next story talks about the tech backlash. This is a kind of an idea that people are starting to feel different about tech companies. I think it was a gentleman from the New York Times who published that. He said that there is no tech backlash. There's none. There's no tech backlash. He argues that the idea that there's a tech backlash is squashed because people are still joining social media and people are still spending money on products. He's talking about Twitter, Snap, and other people have added millions and millions of users over the years, and 72% use some form of social media. And this article on The Verge argues from a different point. It says that the tech backlash is possibly a thing and is real because of the things that are happening as a result of these companies. And he gives, as a result of these companies doing bad things. And he cites things like when Facebook was caught with their pants down and how they had to go before the government and how now they had to change their entire roadmap because of this. And also, he gave another example of Google. Google also had to go before the Senate committee and explain all the stuff they're doing, and they're having to change the way they're doing stuff. So now, and also this article, Tristan Harris, she began a movement essentially accusing them of creating a digital attention crisis. And you notice now all our devices have things to prevent you from using your device a long time. We call it screen time. So this argument on The Verge, and I kind of agree with it, is that it may not necessarily be seen from adoption of your service or from how much money you're spending, but representatives of the people are going forward, and I'm assuming at the request of the people, because I've written my local senator about this kind of stuff, to make change, essentially to hold these companies accountable. The fact that Facebook changed their entire roadmap. If you look at Facebook's new roadmap, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Facebook's new roadmap is all about privacy. They went full blown. We're all about your privacy now. And that's exactly what's happening here. And I agree. I agree that there is change happening, and that tech companies are being very, very careful about how they're informing their users about how they're using their data and privacy, and most notably security, because there's been a lot of breaches, like password breaches and stuff like that, and consumers are starting not to trust storing their data or any data on these companies' servers. So there is some kind of it's a different kind of tech backlash to what people think it is. It's like, oh, they're looking at their earnings, they're looking at how many people they have. But now these representatives are making these companies spend a lot more money than they want to on things that they didn't even plan to do. So I agree with The Verge. I think the tech backlash is real. It's just not the way you think it is. It's a different type of tech backlash. Next story talks about this ex-Google worker who's been pretty much confirming what we've been saying for years, that AI is dangerous when you give it total autonomy over weapons. And I can't fathom for the life of me why people would want to give AI control over human destroying machines. This engineer, this is a former Google engineer that joined the military project on some AI stuff, and he essentially wrote, I think he wrote a camp. He wrote something, but he joined the campaign to stop killer robots. And you may be thinking, well, we got killer robots today. Well, we have drones that people fly. You know, these are machines that people fly manually. They have like basically 2 flight sticks. It looks like Elite Dangerous if you look at some of the things, and they control these things. But what he's talking about is giving AI control over devices and machines like tanks, like drones, like helicopters, so that humans don't fly them. And the military, you know, they're all about saving soldiers, and they're all about keeping their soldiers alive. So they love this kind of stuff, because if this thing were to die or perish, no human life is lost. Flip side of that is that when AI goes wrong, AI goes wrong. I mean, you can see that today. When AI goes wrong, AI goes wrong. And if you're giving them some kind of control over a gun or over a tank or over something that could destroy a city block, that's just asking for trouble. We can't even keep our servers safe online. We can't even stop hackers from taking our passwords and taking our data. We can't even make a stable piece of software, let alone give AI some control over some human killing stuff. So I mean, it's not just movie stuff. I know we like to joke and say, "Oh, it's Terminators, it's it's Skynet is coming," but it's real. It's actually real. You don't want to programmatically control death. It's just something that you don't want to do. The fact that this stuff is still going forward and still getting funding, and this engineer is speaking out, it's crazy. But here's a quote. It says, "As a site reliability engineer, my expertise at Google was to ensure that our systems and infrastructures were kept running. And this is what I was supposed to help Maven with, although I was not directly involved in the speeding up the video footage recognition, as I realized I was still part of the kill chain, that this would ultimately lead to more people being targeted and killed by U.S. military in places like Afghanistan. You could have a scenario where autonomous weapons that have been sent out to do a job confront unexpected radar signals in an area that are searching. There could be weather that was not factored into in software that could come across a group of armed men who appear to be insurgent enemies, but in fact are out with guns hunting for food. The machine doesn't have the discernment or common sense that the human touch has. The other scary thing is that these autonomous war systems is that you can only really test them by deploying them into a real combat zone. Maybe that's happening with Russians at present in Syria. Who knows? What we do know is that the UN Russia has opposed any treaty, let alone ban on these weapons, by the way. If you're testing a machine that's making its own decisions about the world around it, then it has to be in real time. Besides, how do you train a system that runs solely on software? How to detect subtle human behavior or discern the difference between hunters and insurgents? How does the killing machine out there on its own flying about distinguish between the 18-year-old combatant and the 18-year-old who is hunting for rabbits? I mean, she's just using the hunting thing as one example, but it's like you're sending these machines out to kill people, and not only can they can get confused, they can be manipulated and hacked. So somebody with a keyboard in a coffee shop in Seattle could say, I'm going to tell this drone that's going to kill this to go kill that instead. It's a really scary world that we're entering in. And I'm usually the one to speak out on this, but you guys probably know that already. But it's just something that I want to bring up. Audible's in the news. Audible's, I haven't read this one completely, but I just want to talk about the idea of it. That book publishers are saying that Audible captions are copyright violations. That essentially they're saying that the actual captions are the book themselves, because it's the book in word form. And this is in their lawsuit, the publishers argue that Audible is effectively distributing an ebook alongside the audio file, something that normally requires a separate license and payment of additional royalties. But Audible disputes that. Audible Captions is not a book of any kind, much less a replacement of paper books, ebooks, or cross-forma products. They argue that the technology has substantial public benefits. It can help people with learning disabilities or limited hearing to better understand audiobooks. It can aid people learn a new language, and it can help a growing number of teens who have grown accustomed to watching online videos with captions on and would benefit from listening to audiobooks the same way. Now, this is really not a black and white issue, because the publishers do have a point. They have licenses in place if you are going to sell the book in text form, and that's what they're arguing. They're saying you're getting around our license fee by using captions, which is not incorrect. It's actually true. They are getting around the license. But if you think about the spirit and the purpose of captions, it's not so that you can read a book. It's so that people who are hard of hearing, or people, who can't hear the sound, can actually enjoy the content. So I don't know how this is going to go, because both sides are essentially right. You are getting the book in text form. You are. And that's a fact. That's not disputable. And I'm sure the contract has some text in there that says, if the book is in text form, you have to pay this additional fee for this contract. I don't know. It's kind of a new frontier, since we're in this new digital age. These contracts were written for old school paperback books, and I think they've been updated for ebooks, but not necessarily closed captions. And if you think about it, you can read a book by using Audible and closed captions. You can. It's possible. And it's almost like it's easier, because you don't have to turn a page or tap anything. The words will come across the bottom. Audible argues that its technology is fair use. Copyright's fair use doctrine has enabled a number of key media technologies over the last 40 years. They cite that the famous 1984 Supreme Court ruling holding that recording copyright TV shows with a video cassette was legal. They point to a 2015 appeals court ruling upholding Google's ambitious project to scan millions of copyrighted books for use in its search engine. So they're arguing fair use. I don't know which way this is going to go, because I agree with both sides. I sympathize with the captions because of the use for disabled folks and people who can't hear. But at the same time, these book publishers got to make their money too. So we'll see. We're going to be watching that one closely, see how that turns out. Americans would rather drive themselves to work than have an autonomous vehicle drive them, a study says. Study says. It's a study. Oh man! All right, I used to work on this stuff in college a little bit. I was gonna go to grad school for it, and it's AI in action, real time AI, and there are going to be when we move to this, because we are moving to this. It's happening. It's in the process of happening right now. There's going to be accidents, just like there are today. I'm hoping there'll be a lot less, but there are going to be accidents. Software can get confused. Software can get confused just like a human can get confused, but, we rely on our common sense to make irrational decisions to come out with a rational outcome. That's where software fails. That's where AI is always going to fail. Humans can make irrational decisions to come out with a rational outcome. And that confuses software. They'll be like, but why should I turn around and put the car in reverse and then swerve around to save my life? You know, it's just one of those things. And I'm with this. I don't feel comfortable in an airplane with autopilot, even though there's a lot less traffic. People like to compare this stuff to airplanes and autopilot. I don't feel comfortable with that either. The fact that you can disable autopilot, you know, when you hit turbulence and stuff like that, you know, it's cool. But I still don't like autopilot. I'm not a fan of that either. Mainly because I don't think machines are smart enough. And even if they are smart enough, I don't want to put my life in their hands. I don't know. Call me a humanist. I'm racist against robots. That's what I am. But this move towards autonomous vehicular motion, or AVM, is happening, especially with things like Uber and Lyft coming out. You know, people want to get their ride shares and stuff going on. They want to save money. You know, we're trying to emit less carbon into the atmosphere, so less drivers would be a good idea, because you can have all these to be electric cars or whatever. But here's the data. It says, if you had to make a 15-mile commute trip, which of the following options would you choose? And this survey was answered by people, and they didn't want to use the driverless service. Like I said, I really don't think I'll ever trust it. I'm going to be one of those old people that you see in these futuristic movies. You can't put me in that car. I'm like Will Smith in iRobot, man. I'm like Will Smith in iRobot. That's an easy way of saying it. And finally, Bastion. It's happening. Bastion, Lego. This is some video game news here. This was announced today by the guys over at Blizzard and Overwatch. The Bastion Brick Challenge. You got to win some games. Play the game. You get some icons, and if you win 9 games, either in arcade, quick play, or competitive, you get this awesome looking Lego skin. I love this. This is Lego at its finest. If you watch some of these Twitch streamers that are going right now, I think there's one guy streaming right now. You get these sprays and player icons, and yeah, it's actually pretty cool. And you can save 20% on the Lego Overwatch if you want to buy some Legos. So yeah, that's happening today, and that's the news for today, September 17th, 2019. I'm gonna open the floodgates if you guys want to spend. This is what I'm going to be doing for this from now on. If you want to spend your points, I have a new option that called Submit a News Story, and it requires you to be a sub though, because you got to post a link. So if you're not a sub, don't spend those 3,000 points. Also, I'm going to open up to bits as well. If people want to give bits instead of those points, they can. And I was going to say 500 bits. But if you guys want a story you want me to talk about today, now's the time we're going to open it up. But those are the 6 stories that we found today. And if the story's good enough, I'll throw it up on my my pocket share. That way it'll get syndicated to bwananews Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And more news, Apple Arcade is available. For $5. That's another thing. I still got my notes here about that. Like, I still look at all these notes I took, man. I still haven't recorded this video. I just need to speak these things into a mic with Bwana voice and record things and publish it to YouTube, but I won't. All these delicious notes I took. It is what it is. Yeah, I'll probably do the Apple Arcade trial and stream it. Probably that might be a weekend thing. Probably a weekend thing. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Is it like Game Pass? You don't know what Apple Arcade is? Oh, you weren't here for my stream, were you? Where we talked about the Apple announcements and stuff. Let's see if I can get a list of games here. Would it be under... Let's see. Apple Arcade, there we go. Coming September 19th. Ooh, wait. That's not till Thursday. You said it was here today? What's this? What in the world?
What's this?
How's it out early? It unlocked earlier for iOS 13 beta. So what it does is it gives you unlimited access to a bunch of games across multiple devices. It's an all-in-one subscription. I don't want to simplify it by calling it a Game Pass because not all Game Passes are created equal. I'm not saying this is better or worse. I don't like simplifying stuff like that. I'd rather explain it to you fully. No ads, no additional purchases. You can download them online or offline. You didn't... Wait a minute. You cheated. Oh, yeah, you did. You didn't cheat. You did it the right way. Jump from iPhone to iPad level up. All right. So, here's a story. I played 53 Apple Arcade titles and enjoyed almost every one. This was submitted by Excessively Salty. Used 3,000 Bwana points. Apple Arcade made a solid first impression, but it has the potential to be much, much more. Yesterday, I went a little nuts and played quick snippets of all 53 of the available Apple Arcade games on iPad OS 13.1 beta. So it requires that. So I don't... I'm gonna have to wait until the iOS 13 comes out. And while I never saw anything that immediately struck me as great, I can say with certainty that every game was at least good. That's saying a lot because there's a lot of bad games out there. Aside from Hot Lava, which frustrated me on the iPad with its first-person perspective, I'd be happy to jump in any other titles today. I argued that Apple's Arcade's greatest chance for success lies in leaning into the award-winning artful indie games that usually make the best of list for iOS. Games like Alto's Adventure, Monument Valley, or Prune. I've never played any of those. Projection in particular caught that limbo-like vibe with a gorgeous aesthetic inspired by shadow play figurines from earlier centuries. And I'm especially a big fan of minimalist puzzle games such as Spec or Tint, where you use a watercolor brush to connect various dabs of paint and form new colors from them. Plenty to choose from. You've got brawlers like Lego Brawls and Punch Planet. You've got word puzzles like Dear Reader and the Word Laces. You've got games that look as though they'd be up for any console. Oceanhorn Tomb, Sayonara, Wild Hearts. So many of them are simply fun, as in Pinball Wizard, which looks like a dungeon crawler, but actually is about knocking a poor little wizard into enemies as though they were bumpers in a pinball machine. That sounds amazing. I'm just joking. Then there's Konami, who only released a modern 3D Frogger update called Frogger in Toy Town. That looked okay. I remember that from the... Frogger in Toy Town, I remember that from the presentation from the Apple event. Other developers were much more ambitious. Capcom released a stunner in the form of Shinsekai Into the Depths, a 2D undersea adventure that's both harrowing and challenging. Oh yeah, I remember that. That would give me the willies. Pay little to play. 53 titles, $4.99 a month. Considering many of these games will likely cost anywhere from $3 to $10 a pop, that's true. If you played 3 games a month, you paid for the service, pretty much. But with only 53 games, you know, I think you're probably only going to enjoy maybe 5 to 10 of them, which will pay for itself in the first month or two. So the trial is worth it, but it's going to depend on how many games they add and how often they add them. I think I said this before. You're going to have to really, really pay attention to the game launches, because it could just sit there and just take your money away. There'd be nothing new added for 3 months, and then all of a sudden the value goes away. Because you've given Apple $15 for 3 games or 4 games, and then 3 more months, and then you've given Apple $30 for 5 games, you know. So it depends on how many games they add and how often you use it. The good thing is that it's cross-device, right? So you can use it on your iPhone, your iPad, and your Mac, right? They did add the Mac. And I know Apple TV is on there, but I think they added the Mac as well. So it's cross-platform in the sense of Apple devices. And this is the Frogger game, Frogger and Toy Town. It looks pretty fun. It's just a cheap way to do it. I reckon I'm gonna do the trial, and we're gonna check it out. I'm gonna probably do a video. By that time, my other Apple video will be done. Hopefully, by that time, my other Apple video will be done, and then we can do that video as well. Well. Thanks for the story, Excessively Salty. I will add that to my pocket thing. And I gotta take care of this. Something local here. Okay. I have some recommendations for you. But see, every game, just about every mobile game I play has some kind of monetization. But I don't buy anything. I always play these games as if they were free to play. And if I got to pay a price on, you know, if I have to pay a price for the game, then obviously I'm really not gonna want to pay anything. But I played a lot of Tap Tap Heroes for a while. It was kind of like an idling game. Do this air server. Tap Tap Heroes. I played Brawl Stars. Dragalia is one I've been trying to get into. I'm trying to share my screen with you real quick. Hold on. Okay, so I'm assuming you can see that. If not, I'll just do this. So Tap Tap Heroes, that's the first one there. I played some Brawl Stars, but I didn't play a lot of it. I still want to get into it. Dragalia is a good game. It's a Nintendo published game, and it's well made. It does have monetization though. You probably heard of Auto Chess. Auto Chess is another game you can get away with not paying any money for. Dota Underlords, definitely you don't have to pay any money for that. And of course, Golf Clash, which I'm sponsored by, which I haven't. I need to. I haven't launched my thing. Wait a minute. Give me a second here. I gotta launch my little sponsorship thing here. There we go. Golf Clash. Start. Golf Clash is a free game, and I don't think you have to spend money on that either. So it's all about finding. Just about every game has monetization, but that's kind of where you rely on YouTubers. That's where I rely on YouTubers, because a lot of them will put in the legwork to let you know whether the game will have a paywall in it. And by paywall I mean that it has, you get to a certain point to where you can't progress anymore unless you open your wallet. A reasonable, solution in place. And a lot of people, you don't get to that point a lot of times until you put several hours into the game and you get addicted, and then they say, hey, in order to do more, you're going to need to do this. Or, you know, all the free options are dried up and you're left grinding endlessly for nothing. So I think that's where you rely on a lot of the YouTubers and stuff. I used to do that kind of stuff until the games got really, really long. And it's hard to do that. I mean, you'll be constantly playing mobile games all day, every day as a reviewer. And you won't have time to do anything else. It's a really, really long, time-consuming process. And I couldn't keep up. There's so many games now. Like, I used to do quick fire reviews of little mobile games and stuff, which at the time didn't have hardly any monetization. But now everything has monetization. Okay.